Catherine Fraise, and I'm excited to be participating in the Home Learning Summit that has been put on by Learning Revolution. And I'm here to talk about co-learning and how you can get started creating a co-learning community to serve your community. So I'm very excited to be here. Okay, so a little bit about me. I am the founder of Workspace Education and 100 Roads. I was a public school teacher before I did 10 years of Montessori. I have 3 Montessori certifications and also 10 years of experience doing project-based homeschooling. And this is what I did before I started Workspace Education. And I did that because I was experiencing some issues as a homeschooler. And also I didn't want to put my children back into a public school environment. So I really concentrated on creating the best possible environment for my children to be growing up in. And that is how I started co-learning and co-learning communities, and that's why I founded Workspace Education. First of all, I just want to talk about what is co-learning, because some people haven't heard the term before. So co-learning is really just like co-working in the sense that you have people coming together in a space. It could be an online space, it could be an in-person space, to master something together or to work side by side other people doing a similar thing so that you can share resources and that you can share opportunity and you can bounce ideas off each other. So in co-learning, it's really all about education, and it's about how can you combine your resources as a community to solve the education needs of every child in your space. Things we found through our research at 100 Roads, and now that we've trained over 20 co-learning communities in the cloud, is that it is much easier to start in the cloud. Most communities start with just a few families, so they're fairly small, and it's a place that you can concentrate in one area, and you can develop a little headquarters, you can keep all your resources, and you can really organize, hold events and do all sorts of things in an online space. Online spaces have really evolved over the years, and now they're really much more like a venue than a website, and you can start there and build, and once you've built to a certain size, then you can start organizing your on-the-ground space. But starting in the sky, I think, is very, very powerful, and it's a way to get going and to galvanize people around your mission and your vision. The other benefit, of course, of starting in the sky is that, if it doesn't work out, it's not, a huge problem because you haven't outlaid a lot of money and resources towards that. And you have a space that people can go when you reach out to them. You can say, join this, and then we can keep the conversation going. So you're also not limited by real estate. You can have people from anywhere come and join your online space. So that will keep you motivated, and it's a great way to get up and running. You're probably thinking, what is the difference between co-learning and just other things that people do in homeschooling or in alternative schooling? So for me, the most important thing for my child was to create this environment where he felt comfortable, but also where he was surrounded by a network. So we had a network of families who were like-minded and motivated to create resources and possibilities for all the children in the building, so that I felt assured that I was going to find people who would be able to help me find the right people and communities of children and the classes and experiences that I would need for my child in that space, and would be able to help my child in that space, and that I could provide the same thing for other people's children. So together we would be able to really create whatever these children needed, and really push on each other's networks to make this happen for everybody. The other difference was, like, as a homeschooling mum, you're choosing something that is not mainstream yet. And it's really important to be around like-minded people and people that you can co-create with, and that you can ask them questions and you can get reassurance that you're on the right path. So being in a space where I'm surrounded by people that really believe that we are creating the best possible education, and that really understand why we're doing that in the first place as opposed to going into a school environment, is really, really helpful. Like, I feel like I'm marinating in friends. I've got girlfriends and a whole community of people who really understand what we're about and why we're doing it like this. So I don't need to explain it to everybody, which is what happens, outside when I'm talking to people who have their children in public school. And also we discovered that co-learning is just as good for parents, for mums who are reinventing themselves, who are really discovering their best life as well, and also finding peers in this co-learning world, in this off the grid choice. that is very, very meaningful. And they can then reorganize their whole family life around what they think is important. And they have so much more freedom to create the family culture that they want to create. So it really makes strong families, strong, caring families. And it's just these are the kinds of people that I really feel comfortable being around, and for my child to be around as he grows up. Also, what is a really big difference is in the school environment, a child lives in the world of no. It's like it's not the right time, they don't have the right staff, there's not the right resources, he's not old enough to read that yet or to learn that yet. And I wanted to wipe that out. I wanted to create environments of possibility, like where there are resources, there are people, there is time, there is flexibility. So a child, when he's got the urge to create something, and really manifest this idea that he has in his mind, there is no, right? And there are all these people who can jump in to help him no matter what the thing is. And if it's not your specialty as a mum, you will know a whole network of people who could jump in to support your child in this endeavor. So that makes this environment very, very powerful, because they discover the power of manifesting. Now, I'm a really, really firm believer in creating on-the-ground space, because there's nothing like being in person and having real relationships with people. And we do experience every day, especially during COVID, how hard it is to really feel that connection through a computer screen. So I understand it's not as good in some ways as being on the ground in person, right? But there are some real benefits to doing it in the cloud as well. And one of the biggest limitations that I've found in my homeschooling life, and even at Workspace on the ground, is that we never have enough learners to fill up as many classes as we could offer, or as many experiences. So I know from experience that by having it in the cloud, we're now able to extend our reach into not just our local area, in our national area, but even internationally. We can attract like-minded people who want to join this network. And what we can offer has just exploded, because we can now join all these little communities all over the world doing similar things. So I'm not saying that just doing an online community is the be-all and end-all of co-learning, but I do believe that if you combine the benefits that you have by having an online community and an on-the-ground community to get together, and you make that learning so you could be in any place and still continue to keep that consistent community, which is just so important as we are developing relationships, and we're a very relationship-based model, you can have the best of both worlds. So what I suggest, though, is starting first with your online community, and then once you've grown that from that seed community into a much bigger community, then you'll be able to find those resources to create a really beautiful and complementary space on the ground. So another limitation that we had with just a on-the-ground space is that our teachers and mentors typically came from our local area. And now that we are concentrating in this sky, we're realizing the power of networking across the nation and across the globe. So we can now get experts and all sorts of people doing great things, communities, organizations, even internationally, come in and work with our children. So we have a far bigger reach, right? And we have far more choice. And there is just so much more opportunity that we can offer not just our local co-learning community, but the whole network of co-learning communities that are in our midst and that have done our training. So we are excited to welcome people who want to start co-learning communities, because we have a lot already to offer them. Beautiful benefit of doing it online first, of course, is that it's very inexpensive. So you can have a lot of people join because they're not hampered by the price. And that makes it, of course, much more equitable. And of course, the more and more people that we get making these spaces, and the more things that are offered to the co-learning community movement, the more things that you're going to have access to as co-learners. And the benefits of scale are immense, because just if one co-learning community offers 10 educators that they've found in their local neighborhood, you can imagine what 1,000 of those co-learning communities could have. And then all of a sudden everybody has a bank of thousands and thousands of very amazing educators that have been vetted by local communities, and you can reach out to those communities and get all their input on how that educator was with your children. And now if you're looking for someone to do blacksmithing or an amazing math champion, you've got a whole network to find exactly what you need for your children. So my vision for Workspace Sky, which is what we're creating right now, is just an edgy village, like a mall of education. So if you imagine going into a mall and you see all these different shop fronts, right? And you have someone who's a dyslexic specialist there, and they're next to a math circle where you've got all these mathematicians who are in there entering all these competitions and having all these interactions with children about math and the power of math. And all sorts of different educators could be in there, and people who specialize in making personalized pathways for children, and all these services. Like, can you imagine that it would be like an ecology of services that every single parent can walk around the mall and find the services they need to create the best possible education for their child, right? There would be all different philosophies represented, micro schools, all sorts of things in this online village where we would be unlimited by space because the online space is free. So it's not like you have to have a shop, right? You could be anywhere and your reach would be global. So just if we could create this incredible global online community, we could benefit so many people at a very, very, very low cost. And then people can find what they need and knock it out of the park for their children. And I want to see that power. I want to see the parents empowered to do that. And I think this is a very powerful way to do that. And another very important point is that, in this country, we have this ever-widening divide of people who have and have not. And as a parent, if you're in a situation where you don't have the resources, or you don't get into the right school, or your child is not being served, you've given up on the ability of that school to provide for your child, you will have all these resources at your fingertips that are not hoarded by these institutions in education that tend to control all the resources in education. We will have this alternative bank of resources and like-minded parents that you can get everything that you need from just joining that community and participating and looking. And there'll be people to help you navigate this whole alternative world of education. We're also looking not just at our national issue. We have a whole world out there of people who are not getting access to education. And we want to make sure that we have every culture represented and every type of education that you might need, no matter where you live. If you're in a refugee camp, you'll have access to a very low cost, rich bank of resources to help you navigate what you need for your children. And also to be able to connect with people globally so you can get your needs met no matter where you are and no matter where you go. So you'll be free to travel and still maintain that consistent network of friends and fellow educators and founders and families that you and your children are growing up with. Our vision at 100 Roads and Workspace Sky is to encourage you to start a co-learning community and be part of building this incredible network that we can offer the world, so that no one is stuck in education that's really not serving them anymore. So we invite you to come and be part of the revolution at 100 Roads. Reach out to me personally at kath@iaclc.org, and I would love to talk to you personally. Thank you for coming.